great to be here and great to hear the previous speakers, the industry speakers. Great to see so much work happening. So I'm talking to you very briefly about a project called Creative Boardroom Collaborate for Climate. It's funded through, if you've heard of the Creative Ireland Climate Action Fund, and also through the Shared Island project. And essentially, we were looking at kind of putting a pitch together to get funding. And we were saying, well, what kind of project is going to have the most impact in terms of climate? And we were very conscious that we needed to influence people who are in government, who make policy, and we also very much needed to influence people who sit on boards of corporations, of SMEs, of all of these places where they actually make a lot of the decisions that influence all of our lives. So we put a proposal together. Some of the key aspects of the proposal were that we really, really wanted to include students working with people in positions of power. And we were successful. We got €250,000 in funding, which is quite a lot of funding at the time. And we basically brought on board our partners, which are the Institute of Directors in the north of Ireland and the south of Ireland. The Institute of Directors essentially are a membership organisation, and they provide training for people who sit on boards or who are chairs of boards. So hugely influential people. The other part of the programme that was really important was the shared island aspect. So what we were doing is we were looking at organisations who are working in the south of Ireland and cross-border, and looking at the kind of regulatory environments that they were operating within, and seeing where there were parallels or where there was disconnects, and seeing how we might be able to influence change in those areas. So the project itself was in two phases. The first phase, we did a series of design-led workshops that worked with the students and the directors. Essentially, it looked at there's four key systems that are impacting climate globally. They're agriculture and food, transport, consumables. We focus mainly on textiles in terms of consumables, and the built environment. And then the cross-cutting kind of pillar across all of those is around energy. So the project was very wide in scope. We essentially founded it on three basic principles. We wanted people to know, so to understand what the scale of the climate challenge is. We wanted to break it down so that it actually isn't so overwhelming. I heard people talking about that earlier. And then we wanted to kind of empower them, to give them tools to act. And then once we'd given them tools to act, we wanted them to get very, very excited, and we wanted them to kind of amplify the message, influence others, and start to shout about it. So over the course, so the project started officially in November 2023. We ran the workshops through into 2024. We originally had devised kind of 5 workshops that were looking at the various systems. We had to almost double those workshops because we knew we weren't going to be able to get to where we wanted to in terms of providing solutions. At the end of the summer of 2024, we workshopped directly with the directors. So the students were involved in kind of the first part. They were involved in the first 5 workshops. The directors were then involved in 3 more. And they came out with a series of 5 recommendations that could be implemented across any board in Ireland. And that was really about building a shared understanding, making their journeys public, showing best examples, and then kind of incentivising and celebrating success. The final recommendation is about giving climate a permanent voice at the boardroom table, which is really important. Some of the workshops you've seen kind of all of the design tools that we used. We used the Double Diamond, the Design Council UK's framework, and lots of other kind of design processes and methodologies around that. The directors and student engagement was really interesting at the beginning. Both were terrified equally of each other. So the directors, I suppose, were intimidated by the students who came out of NCAD and IADT, because we were actually pushing them out of their comfort zone, asking them to do a lot of things like icebreakers, like draw each other's portraits really quickly, absolutely terrifying. The students felt that they kind of didn't know enough in front of people who were much older generation, but actually a huge amount came out from both sides for that. There was a good few student placements in different companies arising out of that. We then got subsequent funding to tour an exhibition. This is one of the slides of the exhibition, but a big component of the phase one of Creative Boardroom Collaborate for Climate was we hosted an exhibition in NCAD, and I think I dropped a few of the flyers on your tables, but one of the big kind of signposts going right across the NCAD gallery, if you know it, on Thomas Street, is that we can't keep doing business as usual. And what the exhibition did was that it broke down, I suppose, a lot of the information that's contained in really dense reports that are brought out by the EPA, the Department of the Environment, the Sustainable Energy Authority, and it broke them down into kind of, I suppose, bite-sized, understandable pieces, digestible pieces. And then this exhibition got further funding, and it toured to 13 venues north and south of the border over the past year. And I suppose some of the things that we were doing was just looking at how we can help people to understand how they can make change, either at the board level or in their own personal lives. Small things that you may or may not know, but if every single one of us who use email refrained from sending one unnecessary email every day, we'd save enough carbon to be able to fly from London to Berlin. So there's lots of, I suppose, really practical, tangible examples that we were able to share. Things like, I don't know, I think it takes about 2,700 litres of water to make a pair of jeans. All of those things that we were kind of highlighting and the simple choices that people could make to change the way they behave and the way that they act. When we started this project, this isn't a great statistic, but there's a thing called Earth Overshoot Day. And there's Earth Overshoot Day for every country in the world. When we started the project, Ireland's Earth Overshoot Day was the 22nd of May, which means that we've used up all of the resources that we would need normally for a year by the 22nd of May. I think our Earth Overshoot Day currently is the 14th of April, so we're actually in decline. So we all have to stop consuming, stop eating as much, stop traveling in our cars and on the airplanes as much, heat our houses differently, just really, really try and radically change how we do things.